Hello everyone, it is Saturday, December 14th. Tomorrow, wait a minute, is that right? Yeah, it's December 14th. Tomorrow, December 15th, we have a little early Christmas get-together with a bunch of my neighbors and friends, and it's going to be next door at the house, at the grandmother's house, the one that I made the 10 Afghans for, including 6 jade Afghans. And yeah, I'm bringing Kentucky Fried Chicken. There's a Kentucky Fried Chicken about 3 blocks away, so I'm going to go get some of that. I think there's going to be maybe 8 of us. Anyhow, I finished the Afghan, the Garden Romp Afghan, and I'm going to put a picture of it right here. The grandmother's actually the one holding it up. So, beep. And I'm going to be a little transparent about that. And it wasn't a labor of love, it was a labor of angst. That pattern just about did me in. And all I can say is that I think there is probably a mistake on every single row. So, there are mistakes and then there are mistakes. Now, I made a huge mistake when I was making my Christmas Afghan earlier this year. And by the way, I think I counted up, I've made 18 Afghans this year. So if you haven't seen my earlier videos, here's a picture of the Christmas Afghan that I did. Okay, so I was, I don't know, maybe 30, 40 rows from being complete of the main part before I put on the border. And all of a sudden I noticed it wasn't lining up quite right. And I had totally skipped over one section. So that entailed me ripping out rows and rows of color. And I had a whole bunch of little balls of color. Now that's a kind of mistake that is, you've got to go back and fix. But like if you're doing a granny square and your shell only ends up with 2 double crochets instead of 3, I'm sure you've all done that. That's not a terrible mistake. That is something you can just keep going on and it won't really show. So those are the kinds of mistakes that I had in that blanket, which you can't even find them. You'll never see them. But I know that every single row has a little issue like that. So, yeah, so I finished the 10th Afghan for my next door neighbor. Now she still has the 6 jade blankets because she's not getting together with the family for another week. I could go ahead and make that final applique and put it on, but I'm not going to. And the reason I'm not is because I was feeling overwhelmed and stressed with having so many whips and project bags, and I just needed to get them off my plate and out of the apartment. And so they're not coming back in. Now the ones that I make in the spring will include that little whale applique, but those they'll never know. And I'm kind of surprised Jada didn't ever do a little car to put on the street or something. Anyhow, so on to other things. This is a Christmas present that I wrapped for a friend of mine, but what I want you to see is this paper. I did a video earlier this year on where you can find inspiration for things. And this wrapping paper is inspiration for a new scarf. Now, if you'll notice, there's 4 different colors. There's the red, the darker green, which is like a Kelly green, and then this lighter green, which I happen to have one giant skein left, only one. And when it's gone, it's gone. There's no more getting that color because it's discontinued it. The Craft Smart Never Enough Kiwi. And so this is the kiwi. And I just made a little, rather than have the huge skein out, I just made a little ball from it. And then I'm going to be using this, which is the Big Twist in Varsity Green. And then I have some Big Twist in white, and then this Mainstay red. So those will be my 4 colors, and I'm going to make a little scarf in a corner to corner. See, this is a perfect corner to corner sort of pattern. Now, I did notice that the red stripe is a little bit bigger than the combination of the white and the green. So I'm not quite sure if I'm going to make it that. Like, I'll do 2 rows of the white, 2 rows of the green, and then either 4 or 5 rows of the red. I'm not quite sure. Anyhow, yeah. So I'm going to make myself a little scarf. Well, actually, it won't be for me. I'll just make it, and eventually who it's supposed to go to will reveal itself. But yeah, I saw that paper and I thought, okay, there's a little inspiration there for a scarf. So, oh, what have I been doing? I did another quarter hunt and put a few more quarters in my book. Still have a hard time finding some of them. And so I think I'll just do, like, every time I get paid, before I pay my bills, I'll just go get some quarters and hunt them, and then whatever I don't want, of course, goes right back into the bank. So, and then I'll pay my bills. But yeah, so that's going to be that for a little while. Right now I'm hunting quarters, and then I have some books coming to put pennies and nickels in and stuff, and when those come, then I'll start hunting pennies and nickels. But I'm not there yet. And you know, you can go to the bank and you can actually order a box of pennies. It's $25. Sometimes they have them in the vault, and they'll just bring them out, and sometimes you just have to kind of get them to order a box of pennies or nickels. But yeah, that's where I'm going next. And that's just a little life enrichment thing for me, because I'm just not 100% about crochet. I have so many things going on in my life, and I hope in 2020 I can get back to finishing some oil paintings that I had started based on some photographs that I took. So yeah, there's that. Now I am going to do my best to insert a little bit here on how I hold my yarn when I'm crocheting, because one of my subscribers mentioned that her hand just cramped up from the way she was folding her yarn, and I thought, my hand never cramps up. And I mean, the yarn just flows over my hand. There's no me trying to control the yarn with any kind of this movement. So yeah, I have no problems with cramping. I did have get a little cramp right in here from doing that garden romp blanket, but that was just repetitive motion, and yeah, I have a really solid muscle right here. Anyhow, okay, so I'm going to try to put that little... Okay, this is a little awkward. Now, when I'm crocheting, this is how I hold my crochet hook, almost like a spoon or something. I've seen some people hold their crochet hooks like this. I just can't, I don't know. This is how I hold my crochet hook. Okay, so let me show you how I hold my yarn. I just wrap it around my little finger and then over the top. And I don't actually hold it. And then this hand opens and closes depending on the kind of tension. Because when I close it, you just can't pull. So, and just doing this little motion, just that the yarn automatically just flows right over the top of my hand. So I don't have to actually control it. I don't touch it really. These fingers aren't involved in trying to control the tension. It just flows right over the back of my hand. So I don't know if that helps anybody, but you might try it. So again, just wind it around your little finger and it just flows right over the top of your hand. So anyhow, I hope that helps somebody. So maybe that little thing will help, maybe it won't. Everybody comes up with their own way of doing it, and no way is right and no way is wrong. But if your tension is bothering your hand, you just need to try to find some other way to hold your yarn. If your tension, if you're having problems holding your hook, just experiment with other ways of holding it that aren't taxing on your muscles in your hand. I do find that if I try to hold it this way, I have a lot more wrist movement, and that can make my wrist really tired. Whereas just holding it like a spoon, I'm just like barely moving stuff. Anyway, that's just the way I do it. It's been kind of stressful around here for a while, but especially the last couple weeks because I have a very sick cat. And if I didn't know better, I'd say he was dying, but it's hard to say. He's been to the vet. He has an extremely high white blood cell count, but he has no fever. And so that could be indicative of some sort of cancer that's starting. Although they took an x-ray, they didn't see any tumors, but he could have some sort of lymphoma. It's hard to say. He did have an upper respiratory infection, and they gave him antibiotics. So out of that, he has a little bit of a goopy eye, and I've got eye drops for him. It's not really helping that much, but he just is taking this really slow road to recovery, because it's been about 10 days and he's lost about 3 pounds. He was an 8-pound cat, and now he's 5 pounds something. So yeah, something's going on. We're not quite sure what. He is barely starting to eat again. So yeah, we'll see how he does. He's not that old, but so I've had that stress, and then just the stress of clutter. I hate clutter, and I've got clutter in here because I'm selling the landlady stuff. Then I had all those whips and bags, and that one to me became clutter. And because when I came here, I had nothing, and I had gotten rid of everything I owned, and I literally came here on my bicycle. That's a long story, but I came here with only what I could carry on my bicycle and started from scratch. So I am sort of, I'm not going to say I'm a minimalist, but I really didn't want to get to that place of having a lot of stuff again. I guess the most stuff I have anymore is yarn. So yeah, I took the steps I needed to get rid of some of that clutter, and I'm still taking some steps, but I got the landlady stuff like all over, and there's nothing I can do about that at the moment. So anyhow, I hope you all have a great rest of the weekend, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.